What's happening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk with yours, Kwame Fisher-Jones. As always, I am him, and we are talking NFL. We are coming down the final stretch of the off-season, preseason, relaxed season. We are headed into the regular season, and I want to say this 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out from regular. This is going to be one of the more exciting regular seasons we've had in a long time. I don't think there is a clear-cut MVP. I don't think there's a clear-cut number one across the board in any position. And I don't think there's a clear-cut team coach. This is as wide open and not because of parity where I just think that you have I guess it is kind of parity, but it's parity in the sense that you have a lot of greatness across the board. So I'm excited about the season. And I am excited about this conversation for this show because this is going to be interesting. This is coming down a fair end of versus. So this is going to be the Miami Dolphins versus Dallas Cowgirls / Cowboys. Pretty much simple. Who will have the better record? Who will go better? Who will go further in the playoffs? We both agree that it will be Dallas, so there's no sense in belaboring that point. But I do want to get some Dolphins talking. Specifically, I want to get into Malik Willis because I am intrigued. You know, I think I'm intrigued by Malik Willis, and this could be, oddly enough, Chris. And again, I'm talking to Chris Franklin of NJ.com, who always does my NFL with me. I forgot to introduce you. Got excited on the show. I thought the Dolphins were like 4-13 last year.
Yeah, they were bad.
I was like, they were 4-13. They were like 7-10. So that was a jolt. You know what I mean? That was a shock. With that said, they could start the season 0-5 this year. So they definitely will hit that 4-win mark. They could go 0-5 this year. But I'll get into my prediction and my intrigue. First, what do you see going well for the Dolphins this year? And what do you think their record will wind up being?
Well, I'll start out with what I'm looking forward to seeing. I think it's going to be a little rough. I think it's going to be basically a culture building season for the Dolphins. Jeff Hafley, the new head coach, he's trying to establish himself and what his vision of that team is going to be. And I think, like with any defensive coach, you start to see you make sure your defense is sound. You don't want them on the field so much. You make sure you invest in the run game and your quarterback doesn't make any mistakes. Well, you have some decent. You have a few decent pieces on that Miami Dolphins defense. You have Devon Achane right now as your running back, who I think if they get Caleb Douglas really going, especially after I was watching that Commanders Dolphins preseason game, and I had to turn off after halftime because Quinn Ewers was just, my stomach was making me feel sick because Quinn Ewers was just ugh. Anywho, I'm sitting there watching it and I see what they could be if Caleb Douglas. I saw that one-handed 28-yard catch. I think it was nice. In that first drive, it was the only drive Malik Willis was in there. It worked out perfectly for the offense because that's the side of the ball I'm worried about. They gave the ball enough. They mixed it up enough. They gave Achane the ball enough. Malik Willis was putting the ball in good spots where his receivers could catch the ball, and they were the only ones to make the play. That drive in a touchdown. Granted, I know it's only one drive in the preseason, the first preseason game.
It's a good start. It's a good start.
Good sign. It really is a good sign. So I think even though that's being said, when I look at the Dolphins, I think it's 3-14. After all that saying that, I think there's some bright spots there. I think they win when they're at the Colts, only because the Colts have a look. The following week, the Colts have a Thursday night game against the Texans. We know that division rivalry there. The Jets at home, and then the final game against the Patriots, because the Patriots will be locked into their position as a wild card team, and they won't need to play that game. So that's why I have them 3-14.
Wow. Well, we have them similar. I got them 4-13, but I got 2 sleeper wins in there. But the first win I have, I think we're going to go back and forth on this. I actually think they could beat the Raiders to start the season. And I don't think they will, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did, if that makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. However, if they don't win at home against the Bengals, they could definitely start the season 0-8. If they don't win that home game against the Bengals in week 5, they will go 0-8. Their first win or second win of the season, guaranteed, lock, book it, put it in the freezer, week 9 against the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions come into Miami. And week 9, that humidity is going to smack them in the face. The Miami will have on shin guards, so they won't have to worry about being bitten in the kneecaps. I definitely think that that's where the Lions go down. So that's one, possibly 2 wins. I like a sleeper game here, and I want to know how you feel about this before I go to week 14 versus the Bears in Miami. I like Miami to win that game too. Holiday season. Go ahead.
I just don't know. I think the Bears will be locked in at that point, potentially playing for a number 1 seed. That's what I think. Just like the Bears, I don't see, and I know there's always every team has a slip up game right before the end that all of a sudden we're like, how'd they go from like the 2 seed to like the 5 or 6? That could be a game. I just think I trust Caleb to make a play late in that game if need be, especially seeing this Dolphins offense or what it could be.
Well, that could be one of those games that's a shootout. All right. And another reason why I like that game is it's in December. What's the temperature in Chicago in December? And every year we go through this. Every year we have this discussion. And I won't say I'm right. I won't say I'm wrong because I don't keep track every year. But I know I'm definitely on them. And if you remember, there was a game in the playoffs where I picked a team that I just said will not win a game this year in the Carolina Panthers. I picked them to actually beat most people's NFC Super Bowl favorite, the Rams, in that game. Why? Because that game was in Carolina. And I tell people all the time, if you do not live in that humidity, if you are anywhere where you are away from it, it affects you in ways you cannot imagine when the first hour or so down there. And these teams, they fly down on game day or the night before. They don't get out in there. Your your chest feels like it's tight. You can't breathe. And then that other team comes out because they're like the dude just pushing buttons on the joystick. They got nothing to lose, never lost. And they come out with everything they got. That'll be the one game Malik Willis is 30 for 35. He throws for 416 yards. Caleb couldn't hit a bull with a pound of rice in the ass that game. It'll be one of those games. And I love it. I love it. I love the way it sets up. And then the 4 wins for me are week 5 against the Bengals, week 9 with Detroit, week 11 at home at the Jets. I don't have them winning it all on the road. The week 13 game against Chicago could push them up to 5 wins. And then I got another shocker for you. And I don't think you'll, and you hear me like, what? But then you'll be like, yeah, it makes sense. Week 16 against the Chargers.
That's the game I thought would be the sleeper. That's the sleeper game.
Yeah, it's cross country for the Chargers. I think the Chargers will be good. When we first did this, we picked the Chargers, probably both picked them about 9 wins, 9 to 10 wins. I actually think they're going to get about 11 to 12. And the reason why I say that is I don't think Denver is going to be as good as initially we thought in the beginning of the offseason. And I like the quiet in Los Angeles. Kansas City will be a buzzsaw. It's going to come down to the Raiders. Can the Raiders be a competitive football team? And that'll be the difference. But anyway, I like the Chargers, but I just think they slip up that game. So I've got Miami winning 4, possibly 5 games. The big question for me, the only relevance, the only point is, what is Malik Willis? This will be his opportunity to show. Going into what are your feelings on Malik Willis? What type of quarterback do you think he is, and what type of quarterback do you think he could be?
I think, and this is not to disparage him, I think he's Geno Smith when we saw him with the Seahawks. I think he's a guy who could push the ball downfield if you need him to. I think he's a guy who could manage the game enough that he was not going to put the ball in the harm's way. And I think he can move the offense as long as and there's going to be opportunities for them to do that. Because when you look at because they lost Jalen Waddle, he was traded. You get traded.
They lost everything. They got a divorce. Yeah. They lost everything.
They lost it, and they're sitting there like, what are we going to do? We need to rebuild. We need to find stuff like that.
They lost. It's all good. It's all good.
Malik Washington doesn't scare me. Caleb Douglas, like I mentioned before, Caleb Douglas is the guy that I'm really intrigued by. So knowing that, teams are going to put 8 in the box and say, okay, we're going to take away Achan. Do your best to beat us through the air. There will be opportunities there to make the best of it. And so I think that's why I felt a little bit confident seeing what I saw on Friday from Malik Willis in the fact that he can he can place the ball easily, and they were throwing pressure at times too. I'll say this: the Commanders were throwing some pressures and blitzes towards
Yeah,
them,
well, they got to
trying to slow
start
down
at
things.
yeah, they got to start their foundation. I mean, that's a great preseason game to watch because they're a team that they got to start winning early. They got to start those winning ways early because they got a hell of an opening schedule. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you look at that, and I'm sitting there looking like, you know what? I can see him there. He's going to be streaky. There's a lot of times where I remember when we saw him with the Packers, and even when he had better weapons than that, there were some misfires there, and he looked better. But I think there's not a lot of pressure on him down there. Everybody expects him to be in a rebuild mode, so I think he allows him to tinker and try to develop his character, and it gives him time to have his reach over the team. And he's in a weird precarious spot because, say, if he predicts where we believe that he's going to go, Miami's going to take a quarterback with that pick in this deeper draft class. So I think he knows he's got to audition for the future as well too. So that's why I think overall he's going to have a decent season, not Pro Bowl season, but enough that you look back and go, you know what, that wasn't a terrible signing, and he at least played them into a position to be competitive.
Great points. Great points. I don't know what he is. And you were very articulate in your description. I don't know what the hell he is. I do know I can't take my eyes off of him on the field. I do know there's something that's intriguing there. Now, can that turn into, is it a traffic accident or is it a beautiful woman? We won't know yet. You know what I mean? But we're going to find out this season because all the excuses are there for. Like, all the excuses are there for Malik Willis. You got a bad team. You got no weapons. You got to share jock straps. All the excuses are there for him. But this could also be the golden ticket for him. You know what I mean? This could also be that opportunity. Shout out Mark Zumoff. This is his phrase. I want to make sure Mark Zumoff's phrase. This could be his garbage into gold moment. This could be it. You've got nothing to lose and everything. God, it's a cliche. Warning, warning. But he's got nothing to lose and everything to gain. And it's exciting if you're a fan of his. And I don't know why I'm a fan of his. I don't know why we spent 7 minutes talking about this brother. Like I said, we're going to find out early if it's a traffic accident, if it's a beautiful woman. But either way, I cannot take my eyes off him. And I'm excited to see him because, look, there's no reason to hold back. There's no reason to say anything. You said they're playing for a quarterback to play. They're playing for – these are guys that won't be in the NFL in 4 years. The majority of this roster will not be on an NFL roster in 4 years. And you say that in basketball oftentimes. The Sacramento Kings right now are filled with 12 guys that outside of ACUF probably won't be in the NBA in 4 years. So if you're a guy on that team, this is your moment to show your babies, hey, this is what daddy was when he was playing. This is your season to do it. So it's like a bunch of Bernie Parmalees out there. Do your Googles if you don't know who Bernie Parmalee is.
Wow,
exactly.
Wow.
Do your Googles. Exactly. So, but that's what's there. So make it happen. So I'm excited about Malik Willis, man. And I'm going to keep an eye on it. This will be the first Sunday in a while that I get to sit down and watch all the games and be a dork again. So I'm excited about it. And we'll see where he goes. We'll know early though, because they're going to suck. They're going to be awful. They're going to be an awful football team, but he can make plays. Guys are going to fall asleep at the wheel. Guys are going to overlook them all season long. That'll be his opportunity to come out and do things. Another guy that I'm excited about, which is crazy to say because I absolutely loathe the franchise. And I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fly guy. But I am tired of defending Dak Prescott. This will be the season that these Joe Burrow, Josh Allen clowns. Yes, they played in the Super Bowl, but they didn't win. Or not, excuse me. Yes, Joe Burrow played in the Super Bowl, but he didn't win. Josh Allen hasn't made it to the Super Bowl, but yet we keep elevating him past Dak Prescott. And, listen, man, you either win the Super Bowl or that's it. There is no, well, they've made it to the game. Jalen Hurts has played in 2 Super Bowls. The only reason why we can tell people to shut the F up about Jalen Hurts because he won a Super Bowl. The reason why Patrick Mahomes is who Patrick Mahomes is, and y'all gonna stop disrespecting him because he won a Super Bowl. Dak Prescott has not played in a Super Bowl, but y'all gonna stop elevating people who also ain't played in the Super Bowl over him. Josh Allen is not better than Dak Prescott. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Josh Allen is not better than Dak Prescott. You just like Josh Allen more. Now, before we get to the Dak Prescott rankings, I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to have a really good season this year. I don't know why. Their defense was awful last year, but for all the things you're reading, people love the players are loving their defensive coordinator. They're loving the defense they're doing. The only voice you're hearing out of Dallas is Dak Prescott and the Gotti comment, greatest offense there is comment. Super Bowl is coming from him. We're not hearing anything else. We're not seeing anything else. They were a 7-10 football team last year, Chris, with probably one of the worst defenses the NFL has seen in quite some time. If that defense is Iggy Azalea, mediocre, this team. I'm saying this defense is Iggy Azalea. This team could possibly be an 11-13 win team, brother. And that is, as an Eagles fan, the wins are going to be there for them. The opportunity to win is going to be there for them. I don't have them losing. If I'm being honest, I don't have them losing till week 6 and week 7 against Philly, at Green Bay and at Philly. That's where I have them losing their first 2 games. Then I don't have them losing again until week 13 at Seattle. Or week 15 at the Rams. They have Seattle, then they got a bye, and then they got the Rams right after the bye. I think they only lose one of those games. That's 3 losses. That's 14-3. Now, I believe Philly is going to have a tremendous season, but I don't know if Philly will be the number 1 team in the NFC because I don't think they have to play for that, which is – I think the Rams have to play for that. Dallas has to play for that. I'm forgetting a team. Chicago has to play for that. Philly doesn't need to play for that. They can go out and win on the road. Jalen will win on the road to work. We'll talk about Jalen a lot next week. But yeah, man, I tell you both for us. I think Dallas is going to win about 11 to 13 games this year, and I can only find 3, maybe 4 losses. What say you?
I got them being 11-6. I keep going back to 10-7 and 11-6. I think they're a wild card. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles and Cowboys are tied. The Eagles have the tiebreaker in division wins. That's where it is. I think it's going to come down to who does better against the Giants this year. And I look at the Giants because the Eagles and Giants, we know what happened last year. That came up in the I'll keep on saying the Meadowlands, but MetLife. You saw that, and that's going to be the difference. Can the Eagles sweep the Giants? And if not, then I think the Giants take one. I think the Giants take one over the Cowboys. I look at them overall. Christian Parker, defensive coordinator, the former Eagles defensive backs coach. I've been a big fan of him. I talked to people in the league, talked to Sean Payton, asked Sean Payton about this. I asked the Broncos general manager before about him as well too, and what he brings, and then what he brought to the Eagles, and it came true. He's really good at identifying talent. He's really good at getting the most out of talent and developing. And when I look at what he can do, he's learned so much under Vic Fangio. I thought when Vic retired, he was going to be the guy to replace it and take over the spot for the Eagles. Now, since he's with Dallas, I think he's got enough to do that. And there's an eerie similarity now. When you look at the Eagles, what their success was along the defensive line was through the defensive tackles, getting pressure in the middle and collapsing things for the edge rushers and making things tough. Well, you have Quinnen Williams there. You have Kenny Clark, who's a good run stuffer there. That could take some pressure off those linebackers. And their secondary, I just think, still has some question marks, but it's good enough that I think that makes them a lot better team. They're not. If I'm at, and then he signed Von Miller. I know Von Miller's not the Von Miller.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, but
2 years ago, he's not the guy that we saw back when he was with the Broncos, but he's a guy who's enough to be a good situational third down pass rusher. They have a veteran guy that signed, just like, you know what? I think I want to go there because I have a good shot at winning. Kind of gives you an indication of what he can do. So if I'm Matt Eberflus, I'm throwing stuff against the wall. I'm punching fists in the air. Like, why couldn't you guys get all these pieces for me? Well, you did. Your defense stunk and it got predictable. But
I care
you
what you
probably got a
think,
little bit
Matty
upset.
Ebersol. Paper or plastic, homie. Paper or plastic. Go ahead.
But their offense still had, I consider Javonte Williams being the number one back. I think they're going to have to do a back by committee. I don't know how well he can do being the guy. I have questions about that. But overall, the receiving core is still intact. Is really good. And there's one thing I think as well too, because I think Dak knows it a little bit, and it's probably his mind. The Cowboys, in theory, if they put a post June 1st designation on them next season, before next season, they can cut them. It won't hit against the salary cap. Now, if they did in 2028, they say 55 million. But there's an option if they think we need to really go there because Dak's 33. If he decides he gets 34, he's like, you know what? Maybe we didn't win. There's another loss in the first round, whatever. Maybe we need to look at a different direction. That's on the table, and you know it's going to be talked about in the offseason. So I look at that as one of those things where I think this is why you're hearing to talk. We need Super Bowl. We need to do something quick because if not, Schottenheimer could he be gone potentially? Now they can make wholesale changes again, knowing Jerry Jones. So it's a big season for them.
You use a phrase. You said good enough. 32nd in the league last year in points allowed. 32nd, 7-10. And I want to make sure because I double checked that because for some reason I didn't think that was a 7-10, but 7-9-1 last year with the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL. If that defense is just good enough, man, just good enough, that's all they need. Because offensively, they have a really good quarterback, and no one wants to ever admit that. You know, Brock Purdy and Dak, when they go head to head, Brock Purdy's had success. You can pull the numbers up. I don't have them in front of me, but I'm pretty sure they've had success against each other. But you're not going to convince me Purdy's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. Like, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, man, you mentioned a lot of things. They signed Von Miller. Crazy thing about Von Miller, you would say Von Miller is not the same player he was. Von Miller had 9 sacks last year. 9 sacks. Playing on the Commanders. Quick, give me another Commanders starting defensive lineman. Quick. Exactly.
See,
And I know
I like Frankie Louvu. That's his linebacker. That's my favorite player on that team. That's I revere him the most.
Okay.
Dirty, but
that's fine. But the point is, it's not like they've got a formidable defense, and he still managed to get 9 sacks in the twilight of his career in his sleep. He goes to Dallas and gives you 8 sacks, 2 in a game against the Eagles, and let's say 2 in a game against, I don't know, Green Bay. Or 2 against a game and that you need it against the Commanders, or splits them in like a critical moments. That's all you need, just good enough, man. And 7-9-1 can quickly turn into 9-7-1, you know. And now you're talking about close games. You're talking about different game plans. You're talking about having guys' attention. Things can really go, you know, a completely different direction. But yeah, I really like them to be. Vegas has got them between 9 and 11 wins, right? With the hedging people's bets, so they think they're going to be closer to 11. I like that line because the NFC is very top heavy. It's not like the AFC. The NFC, I think this year is very top heavy. You know who your top teams are. But I don't think there's a team coming up the pipeline that's going to surprise anybody. Do you see a team like that? Maybe the Giants with Harbaugh, but I don't know if they've got I don't think Jackson Dart's a good quarterback. I don't. And so I don't think they've got the horse to lead them. So other than that, can you think of an NFC team that's coming up the pipeline and no one's talking about?
the Giants would be, but I don't think Jackson Dart's going to stick around too much because hey, first game he plays and he gets put in the concussion protocol because he took a big hit again. And Cam Scadaboo's not going to make the brightest of decisions, try and lead with his head.
And he's coming off an injury. Malik Neighbors coming off an injury. Like, stop me when it changes. Stop me when it changes. Like, so what do we? Yeah, we'll talk about the Giants a lot next week. So yeah, I would say it would be the Giants. You know,
Commanders maybe. I think them. I can see Jaden Daniels if they get. It's their. I don't like Blouse the OC.
They were in the NFC title game though. Are they coming up the pipeline? And quite frankly, the Commanders have a treacherous schedule. So they could possibly lose it early. I don't think the Commanders and they don't have any young skill position players. They got a good quarterback. I like Jay Daniels. They don't have anybody young play. Like there's no young team, young player Jay Daniels, young team coming up the pipeline. I don't see it. I don't see it. Nothing in the South. Nothing in the NFC South. Bryce Young, stop it. Stop it.
He's
But
got a receiver now. He's got a receiver now.
So you want to say
I
the
don't want to
Panthers
butcher his
come up
name.
the pipeline? You want to say the Panthers come to the pipeline? All right, we'll say that
I can't.
conversation for.
I can't.
We'll say that
I can't.
conversation for. So yeah, the point, man. The moral of the story is, I really, really, really like the Cowboys' chances this year. Now, here's where things are going to get interesting. Second question of the show, question of the day. Dak Prescott. I get a lot of flack for. I have Dak Prescott ranked significantly higher than most people. Most people have Dak Prescott at outside of the top 10. I think he's easily a top 10 quarterback, and I am willing to argue down maybe he's top 7 quarterback. Where do you have Dak Prescott ranked against the field?
Funny you mentioned that. I have him 7th. I have Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, your boy Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Jordan Love. Reason why I put Love ahead of him, especially if you look at it last year, I think Jordan Love protects the ball a bit better. 23 touchdowns. Like Dak will take a bit more risk downfield, and that's why I think you saw the touchdown numbers, and that's why I think you also saw 10 interceptions. Jordan Love had 4 free interceptions. That's you can make a case for the other one. The other ones I think don't. And this is this is why I had to stop and say, you know what? Nah, he's just better. It was when you look at because for me it was ability, overall ability at the position, and ability to win. And then I was like, I kept going out better. And it's like Trevor Lawrence. I can't put Dak behind Trevor Lawrence. And then you look
I thought you were about to say Trevor Lawrence.
No. I thought I was like, no, I can't do that. Caleb Williams. I think in the future, a couple of years from now, he can do that. He's not there yet. Daniel's not there yet, and so that's why I'm solidified. I have him as number 7.
All right, so I want to go down the list with you because you got him at 7. I take him over Josh Allen. I take him over anybody in the AFC East. Anybody in the AFC East. Mayo, the whole grid, with anybody over AFC. Now you have him over. You have Allen over him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What does Josh Allen give you that Dak Prescott doesn't give?
Playoff wins. As much as Josh Allen's failed in the playoffs, he's got playoff wins.
He's got 8, right?
And he's got decent numbers in the playoffs too.
He does.
Decent numbers in the playoffs.
Dak's got solid numbers too. He hasn't won a playoff game in 3 years. I'll give you that. But, and this isn't to make an excuse, these are facts. Dak has played in a division where you've had the Super Bowl champion, a Super Bowl participant, and an NFC title game participant, and the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
Josh has played in the division with the Dolphins and the Jets.
And then also,
and he's played in the division with the Patriots this year.
Yeah.
And this was the 1 year where he did what? He struggled, right?
Right.
Statistically, I think he was fine, but we're talking about in the playoffs. He didn't do anything in the playoffs this year. So you want to give him the 6? You give him 6 wins in the playoffs. That is a significant amount of time. I would say that seeding helps him, but we'll give him that. You say playoff success. All right. To me, Dak's lack of playoff success is much to do about the formidable teams that he's played versus the shortcomings. The Packers fiasco makes him look bad. Everyone's got that sour taste from the Packers fiasco. But when you step away from the Packers fiasco, you know, the teams Dak's played in the playoffs, and you can bring it up, or I can bring it up, take a look at it. Josh Allen, I guess you could say the Chiefs. I guess you could say him losing to the Chiefs. But dude, I think Josh Allen is a guy that gets a lot of passes. And I don't think Dak does. I think people expect too much. Go ahead, floor is yours.
Well, I look at the fact that also you mentioned the East, where it's the Dolphins and Jets. You also in the same thing back when the Patriots were the Patriots as well, too, up to and including last year. And I look at the fact that most of those times, and the Patriots had those defenses where Belichick was going, they were able to do what they were able to do. So they were on a wild card. And as a wild card, you're usually playing like the 5, the 6, or 7. having to go on the road and sometimes. And then we saw what they were able to do. They were still able to go on the road and beat some of these teams too. You could say, oh, well, they had to play the weakest division winner. Okay. But you still had to win those games on the road in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I look at all that. And then I look at the fact that to me, I look at that. I look at 2021 as well too, when Kellen Moore. 2023. Yeah, 2021 when Kellen Moore was the OC. You had the best offense in the league, and you couldn't get past. You couldn't do anything. You lost. And he finished. I got here 53%, completed 53% of his passes, 254, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, with the number 1 offense in the league, and you're out. So I'm not. You have to respect what he's been able to do in the regular season, but when it comes down to those December games, the games they're supposed to win, the games supposed to do to clinch that one seed, what have you, he just hasn't been able to pull it up. He hasn't been able to perform.
And that's a great point. That's a great point. That's where the knocks on Dak come from, his lack of playoff success. The only pushback I have to that is, are we judging him on just playoffs, or are we judging him on the season? Because if we're judging him for the season, then that regular season matters. And regular seasons where he has a ton of success. And the regular season where he builds these expectations, which expectations always lead to disappointment. Expectations always lead to disappointment because you never get what you expect. You're never going to get what you expect. So you don't expect anything. You just get what you get and you don't get upset. But all right, for the sake of argument, because we got 5 minutes left. So you're taking Josh Allen over him. So that's one. Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. You taking both of those over Dak? Both of them over Dak? Okay.
Yep.
I push back significantly on Joe Burrow, specifically because he can't stay healthy. But we'll move on. Anybody in the AFC South?
No.
Okay.
No.
So now we got the AFC West. Obviously, Mahomes. Are you taking Justin Herbert?
No. And that's another one. I was like, no, I can't do that.
That's the point. So right now we got 4. So Dak's at 5. Are you taking Jalen Hurts and Jalen Daniels?
I'm taking Jalen Hurts.
All right, so now he's at 6. You taking anybody? This one? See, this is interesting because this would be Jordan Love and Jared Goff.
Love. I have to say Jordan Love because they had the same amount of success. I think Love is on the ascension. I think Dak is at that point, the peaking point, and he's at his prime, and it's going to slowly go down from there on out. So. I gotta take Jordan Love. It's very, very close, but based off of even last season, I gotta take Jordan Love.
All right, now finally, you got Purdy, you got Darnold, you've got Baker touchdown faker, and Kyler Murray.
No.
And obviously, we're going to take Matthew Stafford over. We'll take Stafford over. Okay. So that's got Dak at 8.
I don't know.
So you would take Stafford over Dak. Interesting.
I really wouldn't.
I would take Stafford over Dak. But I would not take Josh Allen over Dak. Why? You got 3 minutes left. Why would you? What do you like in Prescott that you don't like in Stafford?
I think it's a little bit of his mobility gives him enough time to do that. I know with Matthew Stafford, the thing is, his basic thing is you get a rush into Matthew Stafford's face and you get enough press coverage, you can stop that offense. You can slow him down. It's the matter with, I think, Dak, you still got to work. He's not a world beater. He doesn't run a 4.3, but he's elusive enough to get away from that. He's not a statue back there. That's where I got.
My pushback to that is Matthew Stafford put up some tremendous numbers in Detroit without any type of offensive play calling, any type of offensive flow. He obviously had Calvin Johnson. They had some other weapons in Detroit, but he still put up tremendous numbers, but he didn't win until he got with McVay. At times, Matthew Stafford looks phenomenal. I do agree with you, though, if you give Dak Prescott, and I hate to make arguments based on if. I like to what's present in front of me. I like to deal with what's present in front of me. So I'm not going to do that. I would take Stafford over Prescott, but it's close. It's close. And that's my point. That's the only argument I have. I take Jalen Hurts because Jalen Hurts wins. That's the thing that makes my argument for Jalen Hurts. He wins. He makes the plays necessary to win football games. Period. And when he's got to have a shootout, Check Patrick Mahomes. Check him against Patrick Mahomes in those numbers. You'd be blown away by that. I put Dak Prescott in the conversation of a top 10 quarterback because if you're just talking about production and wins, Dak Prescott is there. Now, the lack of playoff success, I'm not defending that. I am aware of that. But playoff success and no Super Bowl wins means nothing to me. It means nothing to me. It's empty. It's an empty buy. It's a dollar store purchase. If you want a sustainable purchase, you have to put real work in there. You have the Super Bowl. Are you winning the Super Bowl? That's what elevates you. You either win it or you don't. So that's why that's probably why I'm putting Stafford there, because he's got the Super Bowl win. I know Hurts is in there because Mahomes is in there, but the rest of them dudes, come on, man, messing with that. Joe Burrow, I would not put Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow can't stay healthy. And whatever you want to point to why he can't stay healthy, still he can't stay healthy. And that's it for us. We got to stay healthy because we got to rock and roll. Great show, Chris. That's it for this episode of Unparalleled Sports Talk. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you comment, like, share, whatever your platform allows you to do. I'm Kwame Fisher-Jones, Chris Franklin. Till next week, appreciate your time and year. You be easy.